Hi, and welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Today we want to talk about some real life practical ideas for getting out of a funk, getting unstuck, getting, when you're down and out or you feel kind of just like, not doing anything. We want to talk about some practical ideas to move forward in the midst of discouragement.
Yeah, like when you just feel like you don't have any more resource. You're tapped out. You can't even like that moment where you're just like, I can't even, and your head falls back on the couch. You're just done.
Obviously, there's a ton of resource in the world about getting unstuck, about depression, about moving forward when you feel down. And we thought we would add to the conversation. We'd love to hear from you at the end of the podcast, some ideas you have, some experience you've had in any of this. Because I think it's a normal, natural human experience to have down times, especially seasonally. I think for me, we're recording this right now. It's winter time. And often in the winter, I get some seasonal affective disorder. Sometimes I feel a little more down than if it's summertime, for example.
Yeah, especially right after the holidays. I think it's so brilliant that cultures of old at the winter solstice, like at the darkest time of year, said, screw this, we're going to have a festival and we're going to have a lot of candles lit and we're going to have a lot of cheer and fires and getting together and warmth, and we're just going to do everything we can to make it so that the shortest day of the year doesn't get us down.
Yeah.
And so we've done a lot to add on to that. And so we have this really cheerful time period and it's all up and there's holiday songs playing and everybody's getting together and there's gifts and we're spending money and we're loving it. And then boom, January hits. And it's oh, that's right. There's a lot more winter left and there's not a lot of cheer left. So how do I deal with that? How do I deal with this time period? So I lived in Alaska for 4 winters. And what is just incredibly illustrated when you live... I lived in Anchorage, okay? I wasn't even in Fairbanks. I lived in Anchorage. And what is just so clear is that it's not the cold or even the snow that gets dumped on you. It's the dark. It's the dark. The dark is so oppressive. And again, I was in Anchorage. Fairbanks is way worse. And of course, anything north of Fairbanks is just cray-cray. But in Anchorage, it wouldn't get light until very late in the morning, and then by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon it's starting to get dark again, and it never fully, the sun never fully goes at the top of the horizon, so Sure. It's not really, it's kind of a dark light even then. Now in the summer it's the exact opposite, right? You're this is awesome, I'm gonna go mow my lawn and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and nobody's gonna blink an eye because everybody else is out mowing at 1 o'clock in the morning too. So it's really nice in the summer, but in the winter it's so oppressive. And so I really got a taste of what seasonal affective disorder looks like. And there are all sorts of things that people do there to fight off the winter blues. And they're basic things that most people need to do all the time to make sure that they don't hit that level of discouragement, that they don't just let the environment oppress them to a point where they don't feel like they can crawl out of that.
The time of year triggered this conversation, and people have down times no matter what season it is. It could be middle of summer, July, beautiful weather, and you and your spouse are having trouble, or your kid is, you have a struggle with one of your children, or a friend dies, or a parent dies, or you just are down and out and you just don't feel great. And so you kind of have a funk you're in. Again, it could be any time of year, which just happens to be this conversation came up because it's that time of year when it's more people seem to struggle with it than normal. However, we have some practical ideas on this.
We have 6. We're going to talk about 6 practical ideas, physical things that you can do in order to get out of a funk, no matter what time of year it is.
Yeah. So first up, we think physical light is important for your mood, for boosting your mood, for getting yourself out of a funk. I think we underestimate how much light plays a role in our lives through the year, and how much light we get. Actual natural sunlight is probably the best type of light, but any type of light, even lights that don't necessarily give you vitamin-rich nutrients, just being able to see light and have lights represented. I think during the holiday season, you made a great point about lights. Christmas lights are decorated everywhere. There's, candles and fires burning places, that roaring fires, that typical Christmas time picture you see, that Norman Rockwell-esque type picture. And so this idea of light, I think, is really important for mood.
Totally. Well, and as we go through these 6, I don't think any of them are going to surprise anybody. They're going to be the basic things that I think we all know that we need in order to have higher moods, but I think we really want to emphasize why these things are truly important.
Yeah.
And with light, in particular the UV rays, the sun gives us vitamin D, which is so important for our psychological well-being, for our mood. And so if you don't get enough vitamin D, you're in trouble. You're in a bad place. And vitamin D coming from the sun is one of the most efficient forms of absorbing vitamin D absorbing it into your skin. So even in Alaska, where there wasn't a lot of vitamin D to be had, there were still opportunities to go out into the sun. And you have to fight for it. You have to fight for your right to light. I remember having basically a day job in Anchorage that didn't really allow me to go outside much in the wintertime, but I took breaks. I went out and made sure that even if it was like 20 degrees or less, right? I mean, Anchorage can get pretty cold. Even if it was like 0 degrees and like the wind chill was crazy, I would still make sure that I got outside to get some vitamin D, to get some light. And in areas like that, there are things made available like tanning booths. Not all tanning booths are created equally, and there are some that are more and less harmful than others, but tanning obviously was it wouldn't surprise anybody that it was a huge industry in Anchorage because people need that light. And you don't need much. You need like maybe 15 minutes a day. So if you can get 15 minutes, even if it has to be synthetically created through a tanning booth, right? And again, they're not all created equally. Some are better than others. That is so important to get that vitamin D. I also read recently in Scientific American Mind that the reason why people get addicted to tanning is they were doing these experiments on mice and rats. Actually, I think it was rats, not mice. On rats to figure out what it was about UV light that was creating this compulsiveness in human beings. And rats and humans are, similar enough in their chemical composition in their minds to be, to have some correlation there. And they discovered that the chemicals that are released in the minds of rats when they had, and of course they did it complexly and they had controls and, they did it the right way. But they discovered that the kinds of chemicals that are being released in the mind when you are getting UV rays are similar to opiates, right? Like you can get addicted to tanning like you can get addicted to heroin, basically. Now, of course, you don't want to be addicted to tanning and you don't want to be addicted to heroin, if at all possible. However, it gives this a more context to why we love light so much. Light represents chemical, releases in our minds that are similar to the pleasure that we get when we have an opiate release. So being sure that you get light not just for that vitamin D, but also to have your pleasure receptors go, oh yeah, this is really good. I really like that. That's why light is so important. So don't diminish the importance of it. Make sure that you're fighting for your daily, in an overcast day. I also grew up around Portland, Oregon, which is very overcast. Mm-hmm. So there were a ton of times when it wasn't the cold in Portland, it was also the dark. And it was just because there was a lot of overcast days. But the day that isn't overcast, you make sure that you get as much sunshine as humanly possible. So make sure that you fight for your light. And then on the inside, like indoors, where you're not going to get your UV rays, just having lights represented, like you mentioned, with Christmas lights, we keep our lights up until they burn out. Yeah. Like we take the trees down and we take like the Christmas decorations down, but we keep our lights hung. We have lights hung above our bedroom, right? Above our bed in our bedroom.
Yeah.
We make sure that we have lots of little twinkly lights represented in our house all through the winter season.
Yeah, I think it adds a warmth, a psychological warmth, even if you're not getting direct UV rays. I think just it feels more warm and inviting when it's so dark, particularly in the winter seasons, to have these little lights around, and oftentimes in the fall and winter we'll burn candles as well. The other thing that I've done is I try to take advantage when I see light coming into a building. So if it's cold out, if you're in a winter experience, again, people in Southern California are like, why are you guys even talking about this? Probably. But like, if you're in a winter experience, not in Southern California or somewhere in the
Florida.
Mediterranean, you're going to have to kind of steal these opportunities. And one of the things in our daughter's bedroom, there's a big, giant floor-to-ceiling window there, and it faces somewhat toward the west. So in the afternoons, we'll often get, if it's a sunny day, even if it's like 20 degrees outside, we'll get light streaming through that window. I'll often go and see that light beam coming through the window and go, you know what? I'm going to go get a pair of headphones and sit there for about 20 minutes facing the light, kind of in a meditative stance. I'll sit on the floor in a meditative position and just close my eyes and let the light just hit my face and my body. And I notice that my day's mood kind of peaks after that. Like physically, I feel better. I feel a little more happy just sitting there for 15, 20 minutes in the light, listening to some music, not even meditating or doing anything particular, but just allowing that light to hit me. And I've found different places, different people's houses I visit, they have that spot where the light comes through the window. And I'll literally sit in a sunlight beam, and whether it's on the floor, wherever it is, or lay in a sunlight beam, and it boosts my mood like crazy. Just a quick little hit of sunlight, even if it's not direct UV rays outside, psychologically, somehow it makes me feel better in that. The other thing is we shoot a lot of video. So we have studio lights here in our office/studio because we're shooting a lot of video for Personality Hacker. And sometimes if I'm having some downtime, like I feel kind of down and it's dark or I need that light experience, I'll go turn on one of those studio lights and stand in front of it because it's usually Kelvin. I don't want to get too technical, but if you're a photography person, usually it's temperatured for looking and seeming like daylight. So it simulates sunlight. It's got the same tone as sunlight for video recording. And so I can stand in front of it and get a very similar type of experience as being in the sun. It's very bright, it feels very full, and it's actually even warm like sunlight. So I can synthetically create some lighting in that way. And again, you might not have studio lights, but these are just some ideas on getting the light you need in your life that are very practical to try to pick it when you can. Now, again, if you're listening to this in the summertime, you have the opportunity most likely to go out into more lighted situations. But often we work day jobs or we're like busy and we forget to get out of our cars or get out of our offices or get out of our houses and go out in the sunshine. Just like your mom told you when you were a kid, go out and get some fresh air. That still holds true, right? We need to get fresh air and get light in our lives.
And if you're we're talking about people who are discouraged. If you're discouraged, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. You just don't want to get out of your house.
Yeah.
Like you want to do as little as humanly possible. And so just take your sitting around doing nothing on the inside, if it's summertime, and sit around and do nothing on the outside and get some sun. Like take a chair or a blanket and just lay out. And you don't have to force yourself to do anything. You just change your laziness from one context to the other. And that's perfectly acceptable. When you're discouraged, it's not about immediately becoming, like Mighty Mouse, like, oh, I was doing nothing before, but dun dun dun, now suddenly I've got a cape on me and I'm feeling totally not discouraged. It's completely about baby steps. It's about one little leverage point at a time. And it's a conglomeration of doing all these things that will have the emergent of feeling much less discouraged. And oftentimes when you're discouraged, like the idea of getting out of discouragement sometimes all by itself is too much, because you think that when you're not, like the projection when you're not discouraged is that you're going to have to do all this work. Mm-hmm. And when you're discouraged, you don't have the energy to do that work. So you don't want to not be discouraged because you can't handle the idea of work while you're discouraged. Does that make sense?
It's a self.
Like, you're like, well, but if I'm not discouraged, then I'm going to have to go do all this work. And right now I can't conscience that. So it's not a matter of get out of discouragement in order to be a more productive member of society, right? Again, you lazy piece of whatever. It's about, hey, I don't really like this emotion. It doesn't feel very good. So I'm just going to do some stuff that makes me feel less like doing nothing, right? And it doesn't mean that I have to jump up and become amazing. I just don't want to feel this anymore. So I'm going to work towards not feeling this. And one of the things I'm going to do to work towards not feeling this is I'm going to get some light in my life. I'm going to get some vitamin D. I'm going to get some UV rays. I'm going to string some lights up in my house. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get a little bit more light in my psyche so that I'm not feeling as down.
Absolutely. So number 2, and this is going to seem obvious, but we've got some thoughts on this. Water. Right? Water is fundamental to our health, and we believe that water can help get you out of a funk. Drinking water and consuming enough water can give you energy, it can give you vitality, it can increase your mood, it can increase your health and energy level. All this stuff can happen by getting enough water. And I don't think most people, I don't get enough water during the day. I need to continually remind myself and build systems in my life to get enough water to live my day out in a productive and healthy way. And I don't think most people have water on their minds as much as we probably should.
I think we all know that we need to be drinking more water. I think that gets
beat into us
what?
by Dr. Oz.
I think we're told that so much that it turns into white noise.
Exactly.
I think, like, when I say I think we all know that, I'm going to use the word know in quotations. Like, we all know that. But because we hear it so much, and because in the short term, we can totally survive. I mean, I've gone entire days without drinking one lick of water, at all. And so it's like, oh, well, I totally survived that day. So obviously water isn't that vital. But I have a friend who is, his business is called the Knee Pain Guru. And one thing that he told me that illustrated the importance of water is that he said that, when you're having joint issues, almost always people tell you drink more water. And I didn't really understand that. I was like, is it because it's lubricating the joints? Or like, I didn't have the medical ability or the know-how to be able to understand exactly what was going on. And he said, no, what it is that your body, after your brain, has decided that your gut or your stomach is the most important organ in the entire body. It will shut down everything else to keep the gut going. And that makes sense because the gut is, of course, how it pulls the nutrients in order to keep the brain going, right? That's where you get all your glucose, and it's where you get all your sugars that the body or the brain needs in order to keep going. So your brain massively prioritizes your stomach. If you don't have enough water, right? If you don't have enough, and also another component is that if you're not eating well enough for your own personal, if you don't have a diet that matches your stomach or matches how you're, what's optimized for your personal health, your brain allocates all the resource that you are getting, like your water and your nutrients, etc., and it all focuses attention on your stomach to make sure your stomach is okay. And that means if anything else in your body is in need or has any other issues that it's trying to heal, it won't allocate any resource or very little resource to that. Whatever's left over, whatever your gut doesn't need in order to be healing it will then allocate all of that stuff to the other parts of your body in varying orders of priority. So if you have knee pain and you're not getting enough water and you're not eating the right foods for your stomach, then you pretty much are telling your body to not send anything to your knee, right? Your knee's not a priority at all, to send everything to your gut to make sure your gut's okay. And then your knee is going to be perpetually in pain. It's going to have nothing left over.
Yeah.
So it just struck me how important it is to make sure that you're not just getting enough water to not be, say, thirsty. You need to make sure that you're giving your body the resources it needs to be able to handle all these different issues, right? Everything that it needs to handle, it's getting plenty in order to be able to deal with all of these separate issues. So it's not just, say, giving priority to the gut or whatever is the next on its list. It's giving priority to everything, right? Because it's got plenty of resource to do that. So one of the reasons why we feel discouraged is because we just don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. We physically don't feel good. And if we're not...
Or everything's a physical struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
If your knee hurts, it's a struggle to go outside and get fresh air.
Or to exercise, or all these other stuff I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just physically not feeling good. Well, make sure the number one priority is make sure you're getting a crap ton of water. If you think you're drinking too much water, drink more. If anything physically hurts, make sure you're drinking a ton of water, because it probably is a matter that your gut, your stomach is the issue. And you need to make sure you're giving it plenty of fuel to be able to fight whatever it's trying to fight, and then it will then allocate all that stuff to all the other parts of you that don't feel good. So water is massively important. I
think you hit on it, that we've heard so much about some of these physical things that they seem like white noise. So instead of just saying drink more water as an advice, let me give maybe 2 leverage points, not maybe, let me rephrase that. Let me give 2 leverage points that might help you in your situation to consume more water. The first is, I think lifestyle change comes down to just small leverage points that start to build upon each other. So one leverage point that I've changed my habit: when I first get up in the morning, I used to get up and I used to go make coffee or grab a cup of coffee, and that would be my first thing I drank every morning to kind of wake myself up. And I love coffee in the morning. I think it's a great, it feels good to drink coffee. It's got caffeine, so it wakes me up. I love the taste. I love the experience of that warm cup of coffee in the morning. Like, the whole experience is pleasurable.
I'm addicted.
Yeah. Obviously, it's an experience that most humans have around the world, or a lot of humans have around the world. And what the leverage point I changed is, when I get up in the morning, I drink a full glass of water before I even get out of bed. Like, as soon as I wake up, I sit up. I usually have a pitcher of water, a jug of water next to the bed, and I'll pour myself a full, usually it's 12 to 16 ounces of water, and I'll drink it immediately. And within about 10 to 15 minutes, I feel alive and vital. I feel like my body was waking up. All my organs are happy because they just got a whole bunch of water flooded into my system first thing in the morning. And then I go down and I get my cup of coffee. But at first, I've flushed my body with that water. And man, that one little leverage point that takes me a minute, maybe 3 minutes at the most, to do every morning. I just have a cup of water and a pitcher of water next to the bed where I sleep, so that the first thing I can do in the morning is drink that full glass of water. That has changed so much in my life. It seems so simple, so basic. It seems so obvious, right? That we need water. But think about, your body has been sitting there for 8 hours or more, maybe less, depending, being dehydrated all night. Right. You're breathing in and out. Your body's using all that liquid in there, and you're ready for more water. You don't usually go 8 hours without drinking anything ever. And so if coffee or tea is your first, it's a diuretic, it's got caffeine, all that, it actually is going to remove the nutrients from your body, but that water will place that back. So it seems really obvious, but that is a massive leverage point. And the other thing is just set up systems for water in your life. I know that I have like a refillable container. I think it's, what is this? I'm holding it right now. It's 26 ounces that I can fill up during the day, and it sits here on my desk as I'm working, so I can begin to drink that. And then I also set timers. So about every 2 hours, I'll just have a timer that'll go off. That'll remind me to fill up the glass of water and have that. And if I haven't drank the whole glass that's there, that container, I'll drink it really quick when the timer goes off, then go refill it. So at least every hour or 2 hours, depending on the timing I've done that day, I'm getting water in my system, because I get busy. I don't think about, I'm not thinking about drinking water. I'm thinking about working or recording podcasts or doing whatever we're doing. So just those two little leverage points could help you structure more water intake throughout the day.
Yeah, maybe also have something that says water on a regular basis going on in the background, because I'm getting really thirsty. We're talking about water, and I forgot to grab water, which I usually have, and I'm like, man, I'm thirsty. I need water. So maybe create a water mantra and have it being played in the background where it's just like water. And eventually you're like, geez, maybe I should go get a glass of water.
I guess that could work as well.
It's working for me right now.
I would encourage you, though, if you're listening, the biggest leverage point is that glass, that full big glass of water when you first wake up. Mm-hmm. That has, I want to say it revolutionized my life. That sounds so epic. But it really has changed my day. It's set my days off better. I feel better getting up in the mornings and I might not even be feeling thirsty mentally, or physically feeling thirsty, but I know that will help my day go better. So that full glass of water, man, it just triggers things that are really positive for me.
Yeah. So the third thing, do you have more to say on water? I want to go to the third thing. The third thing is nutrient-dense food. All right, nutrient-dense food. Good, high-quality food. It's basically like we were mentioning before with my friend who's the knee pain guru. If you are not getting nutrient-dense foods, then the nutrients you are consuming through food, because you're probably not starving yourself, you're just eating low nutrient foods. Any nutrient that you're getting is going to be allocated to whatever your brain has decided is top priority. Like, take, for example, your stomach. And other things like mood lifting is going to come down the line. So if you're not getting nutrient-dense foods into your diet, you can't assume that your brain is going to know what to do with those nutrients when it's just trying to keep itself going. Like, it's got to allocate all that stuff to the stomach, because the stomach is what gives it sugar. Now, obviously, too much sugar is highly addictive to the brain, right? Because the brain's like, ooh, this is what I run on, so more has got to be better. And our evolutionary psychology because we spent so much time not having access to sugary foods, not having access to low nutrient prepackaged foods. Our brains haven't really evolved to know how to deal with this. We don't really know what to do with this stuff. We just know that it's, that whole concept of food being optimized for flavor. Basically what that means is food is being optimized to trick your brain into believing that this is good, right? It's designed to give your brain this uber boost of, oh, I haven't eaten for 3 days and all this sugar is going to be really great for me to run on. Because there were time periods in the past in our evolutionary progression where we maybe didn't eat for 3 days and we came across some berries and we were like, yes, berries, that'll keep us going, right? Our brains don't know that we're no longer on the Serengeti just trying to navigate life in a very basic way. Our brains are like, yeah, absolutely, give me those, sugary, delicious snacks, and that'll keep me going when I'm fleeing lions, right? It doesn't know. So our brains are not at a level of sophistication on a lizard level, on a baseline lizard chemical response level. Our brains don't know the difference. But fortunately, our intelligent, rational, cerebral neocortex can know the difference.
Sure.
So making decisions from that place when it comes to your food is a massive leverage point.
Now, I don't know if this is your experience, but when I'm feeling down or kind of not my best, I might be a little depressed. It's odd because I'll actually crave more junk food at that time period than I will when I'm feeling good. If I'm feeling good, I actually have a desire to eat better. And when I'm down, I want to indulge in something that'll make me feel comfortable. And oftentimes that comfort food, quote unquote, is some snack item or something that's junky or something that doesn't serve me well to get me out of the funk that I'm in the first place.
Well, because it's looking for that artificial or synthetic boost.
And so that's always a struggle for me, and I have to really be conscious of that.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So when you're discouraged, that's one of the biggest problems with being discouraged is that it's like we're on a trajectory of discouragement, and we just want to keep doubling down on it. I think, again, in a part, it's because we don't want to not be discouraged because we fear that not being discouraged means we actually have to start working again, and we just can't fathom having the energy to do that. So it's hard to alter our habits when we're already discouraged. However, the nutrient dense piece, foods that are nutrient dense, foods that are high quality food, it's a big deal. Now, I think one of the reasons why we don't always eat high quality foods is we have idealization around food, or at least this was me. Okay, this might not be everybody else, but I had idealization around food. I was looking for something that was high quality in food, low price, and quick. I wanted all three of those things. And over time, it dawned on me that you can't have all three. You can have two of those three. So if it's high...
In any configuration.
In any configuration. If it's high quality and if it's inexpensive, that means I got to make it myself, right? It's not going to be fast. If it's high quality and fast, if I'm going to get it to go, it means I'm going to be paying for it, right? It's not going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive. If it's fast and cheap, it's going to be low quality. Yeah. You can have any two of the three. You just can't have all three. And when you let go of that idealization, right, if you kind of go, okay, so if I'm going to have an inexpensive, high quality meal, that means that I'm going to have to prepare it myself. It makes it less frustrating because I'm no longer looking for the bird of paradise. I'm no longer looking for the holy grail of the cheap, high nutrient, and fast food. It's just not going to happen. So once I allowed realism to set in, then it was a matter of accommodating for that. Okay, so there are times when I want high quality and fast food, and I'm just going to pay for it. I'm not going to pretend that maybe a block or two down the road, I'm going to get the Holy Grail and somehow it's going to be less expensive. I'm just going to go ahead and pay for it right now. Or there are some times when I need fast and cheap and I'm going to have to bite the bullet and get low quality food. But for the most part, it's a matter of, with having it within budget is high quality and less expensive means that I'm going to have to prepare it myself. So I've just kind of come to terms with food preparation.
Yeah. Again, I'm looking for leverage points in all of this, and I think that model is really powerful to think about those three things, and you're going to get two of them. The leverage point for me, again, I feel when I'm kind of in a funk, I'm down, I'm not at my best, I'm craving something tasty and probably comforting. I think the barrier of entry of getting some kind of nutrients in me is where I look at my leverage point. So if I'm down and out, I think of how can I not have to work really hard or expend a lot of energy because I don't feel the greatest right now, but I also know that I want to get some kind of nutrient in me. I don't want to order a pizza and eat junky pizza. I know it'll taste good and it'll make me, for the first 5 minutes, feel comforted, but then ultimately I'm going to feel really gross and blah, and it's going to just amplify what I already feel. Smoothies have been a really big leverage point for us in our lives. Like if we're in the afternoon, we're feeling like we're dragging, we might be a little down, my mood is down, I know that I need some kind of nutrients, but I don't have the energy to go and prepare a high quality meal. I don't have the energy right now because I'm in a funk. And I found that, liquid nourishment that has nutrients in it is one of the fastest ways to get, food in me. It's not food exactly. It's nutrients that I'm using a liquid form to get in me because it's quick. It can be done fast and I can get that into my system even in the midst of feeling bad. So I found that as a leverage point around food. Totally. I know that's a drink, but it's still, we're talking about the nutrients that comes with food, not food itself. And I think that nutrients can get into you in different ways. So be creative in thinking of that. So have the materials or the supplies on hand, especially during the seasons you might be having struggle or the down and out times in your life, to where you have access to those kind of things. And then that can give you a boost and then have the energy to go prepare a nice meal once you get that nutrients.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think smoothies have, where I'm going to use the word revolutionized. It sounds so exaggerated, but I think our morning smoothies have been a big deal. I can totally tell the days that I haven't had a smoothie. I am in so much worse of a mood and I can't think very well and my brain is foggy. When we have that morning smoothie, or when we have a smoothie for the day that's really nutrient dense, it's a big deal.
It changes everything for me.
Yeah, totally. So that's one way that's fast. It's not always inexpensive. To get a really high quality smoothie recipe can be expensive per smoothie, and yet is a massive leverage point.
Yeah. So we've talked about getting enough light in your life. We've talked about getting water. We've talked about eating nutrient-dense foods, having nourishment for your body. And these are all physical things, and we believe that the physicality of things is the foundational building block for good health and also getting out of a funk, getting out of that stuck position, that down feeling you might have to be your best self. And in that same vein, number 4 then would be physical activity, movement. It doesn't have to be exercise like going to the gym exercise, but some type of physical movement can oftentimes switch you out of a depressive funk or a down mood.
Yeah, the last podcast we did, I talked about an acquaintance of mine who sells information around weight loss, and it's all built on this concept of pleasurable weight loss.
Yeah.
And I think what's so great about that is we have this, I don't know, it's like, it's some sort of meme we picked up in the United States where you're not allowed to have pleasure, or you're not supposed to, or pleasure is supposed to be an indulgence, not a way of life, right? Like, if you have pleasure, you're lucky, and also it should only be in small bits. And hard work and grueling labor, that's how to make your life happen. I think when it comes to discouragement, I think we feel like everything is drudgery. And not only am I feeling drudgery now, but I'm about to feel drudgery, and I'm going to feel drudgery every moment for the rest of my life. And I just can't get out of that mind frame of drudgery. If we replace it with full permission to feel pleasure, right? Like, it's okay to feel good. It's okay to do the things that we like doing. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. And so when we talk about activity, most of the time when you're discouraged, you're like, okay, yeah, I got to go to the gym. And the gym is not pleasurable for everybody. In fact, I would say for the overwhelming majority of the population, the gym is a drudgery until they get there, or until they get into a habit, and then it becomes pleasurable. But if you are discouraged, what are the physical activities that you do that are a pleasure for you?
Yeah.
All right. And I know that, somebody could say, well, eating or drinking, drinking alcohol or whatever, like these could be pleasures. But I mean, like an actual physical activity where you're, maybe even working up a sweat. Is it going for a long walk? Is it dancing? Is it playing, like video games that have a physical component, like, your Wii Fit or something?
Ping pong.
Is it ping pong? Like, what is the physical activity that you have the most pleasure doing? And go do that. Like make the barrier of entry as low as humanly possible. Do the thing that you love. Is it sex? Sex can revolutionize my mood, right? Like I I will not feel like wanting to have sex. I will go, okay, well, I'm only doing this because you want to have sex and because I don't want to be the kind of woman that's withholding. And like, I'll have all these rationalizations around it. And by the end of the experience, I'm like, man, I am so glad that we had sex. That was awesome. It totally changed my mood. So is sex a physical activity that you love doing? Do the thing that causes and creates pleasure for you. Feel no self-consciousness around it.
Yeah.
Do the thing that you love. Unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath and enjoy killing people, don't do that. You know, I've made a lot of psychopath caveats in our podcast
I'm starting to get
recently.
a little worried.
I think it's because I've been reading all that stuff on the criminal profiler around serial killer, and it's on my mind. It's like, unless you're a psychopath, I mean, what's the odds that somebody's going to be a psychopath listening to our podcast? Don't go kill people. But other than that, anything less than like hurting other human beings, go do that activity, whatever creates pleasure for you, and feel no self-consciousness around it. If you're discouraged, one of the biggest barriers is that you think it's wrong to feel good, right? Like it's wrong to feel pleasure. There's nothing wrong with it. Go pursue pleasure.
Yeah.
Pursue pleasure.
And we keep talking about little tiny, like the first step toward getting out of the funk. And I think, like what Antonia's saying, if you go towards something pleasurable, that might not be the lifestyle that you're going to build forever. But if you're in a funk, it can get you to the place where then you can build upon that. We're looking for the starting point, some sense of like, you know, like you talked about sex. Having sex might be that first experience that can get you like in a mood to where you can then go to the gym that day, or you can start maybe take a quick walk afterwards. So it gets you to just, you're changing frame, you're changing state, and you're doing it through something pleasurable or something that's an activity that you enjoy. Maybe it's dancing, maybe turn on your favorite song and dancing for literally 3 minutes, just kind of move into this song. And you're like, man, that felt good. Let me listen to one more song. You dance to another song, and now you're like, you know what? I'm going to put my headphones in and go for a walk, a really empowered, brisk walk. I know it's cold outside right now, but I'm just going to go for this walk and get my energies up. And those little steps of dancing got you to that place of the walk, or whatever. It's trying to find that leverage point, reduce the barrier of entry, and get started on something that can help change your mood. And you start combining all of these things: light, water, good food, movement and exercise, activity. I think exercise is the wrong word. I think it's activity of whatever that can be. And it might be the thing you're already doing. Yeah. That can really help get you out of a funk. And to stay out of a funk, some of the ideas I have also, we have a friend who runs her own business from home. So this is very easy for her to do, but she's bought one of those standing desks, right? She runs like a marketing company from home, basically. And she actually has hooked up the standing desk on top of a treadmill. And so for a period of time during the day when she's working, she's actually in motion, walking very slowly on her treadmill, working on her laptop or taking sales calls or like coaching calls on her, you know, her headset, hands-free headset device to take phone calls. And she'll incorporate movement with her work, her daily work. So she's in motion while she's working, and it helps her mood stay up. So that she's not sitting behind a desk by herself, you know, in a room working from home. She's in motion, and it helps keep her mood boosted. The other thing is, if you work in an office that might not be possible. I did work in an office where they would allow you to bring medicine balls in to sit on a medicine ball. You know, it kind of keeps your core strength going. It gives you something to kind of do physically as you're working. So you're kind of having to balance and your movement a little bit to help build your core strength. And that can increase your mood. Just these little tiny leverage points. And I'm sure if you're listening, you've got some of these yourself. We'd love to hear them from you, because we think that we can build a community of co-creation here and get more ideas than what we have. But it's the idea, the principle behind it is start small and build from there to get out of that funk. Find the point, find the entry point, and then move from there.
Yeah. The fifth thing is related to physical activity, and especially dancing, is music is a huge mood lifter. So music is, it's such an easy leverage point. Like it's so easy to turn on your iPhone, your iPad, your iPod, your, you know, Pandora station on your computer. Like, to access music is so easy, and pretty much any song that you want. So like self-manipulation of mood. We're all for it. If you are feeling discouraged and down, the tendency is going to be to want to feed it, to feed the current mood. That's what we tend to do. We tend to want to feed whatever our current mood is. So we're looking for music that matches where we're at. Now, if you're feeling legitimate sadness, like you've got something that you need to process, you're not just feeling discouraged, you're feeling like truly sad, or you're grieving, or you're mourning, that's a totally different issue. We're talking specifically about somebody who's in a funk, who is discouraged and can't seem to get their way out of it. One of the fastest, easiest ways is to put on music that gets your blood pumping, or put on music that gets your mood up. Music is a great way to access parts of you that need some representation.
Yeah, I think music is very powerful. And speaking of personality types, my personality type in particular, I think everybody loves music, but for me, music is very important because it is definitely a mood creator as well as a mood facilitator. And so music for me, in my personality type, is extremely important, and it can switch my mood very quickly. A favorite song, an upbeat song, something like that can pull me emotionally out of a down funk. Some ideas on music, obviously we have headphones and things we can use, but having music in our house has been important for us. I think we've created an environment where music is kind of a soundtrack in the background, and we create atmospheric moods based on the time of day and what we're working on to facilitate that so we can stay in a positive frame of mind through music, which is really... And the other thing about music and moods is don't discount other sounds that can help put you in different frames. So I use the service Songza.com. It's a great music service. They have pre-done playlists.
Songza is spelled Songza. Songza.
Songza. They have musicologists, they call them, professional, musicians, music producers that hand select themes of music. And you can go on this service. It's a great online service. You can pick the mood you're in, and it'll play a playlist around that mood. You can also get nature sounds. So that's what I was going to say is it doesn't just have to be music. It could be ocean waves crashing or rainforest sounds, something that will put you into a mood or a frame based on the auditory atmosphere you're creating. It doesn't have to be music based. So sound and music can really create a space for you to see yourself in a different environment or see yourself in a different perspective. So I think music and sound is really important. I agree with that a lot.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, you can do things like binaural beats. If you want to look that up online, it's BINAURAL, binaural beats. And those are they access different frequencies of your mind, and that a lot of times can also be a mood lifter. So it's associated with the concept of music. It's not exactly music, but it's helping do very similar things. So looking for something auditory that is a mood lifter is huge. I have a couple Pandora stations that I have, very painstakingly crafted to be perfectly my Pandora station. And I go ahead and pay for the service so that I don't have any advertisements, because that'll throw me out of the mood. And it's like, what, $3.99 a month? I mean, it's so cheap. And so I have Pandora stations that are designed for this. I have my work Pandora station, I have my chill out Pandora station, and I have my get out of a funk Pandora station. Yeah. And those are all very important. I've got them already pre-selected and set up so that if I need those, I can just call upon them. But what's great about Songza is if you haven't created a playlist on your MP3 player, or if you haven't created a Pandora station or whatever, Songs is great because they have what they call a concierge, and they just say what activity are you doing or what mood are you in, and they'll pick the playlist for you. And like Joel mentioned, the playlist is put together by professionals, so it's a really low barrier of entry, which is really nice.
And you can pick the mood you want to be in. So
yeah,
I'm in a funk, but I want to be in a happy sunny afternoon walking on the beach mood. So you pick that, and then they'll play music and sounds that are accordingly, appropriate for that. And that's another way to get yourself a low barrier. I think music's a low barrier of entry to get out of a funk, because it's as easy as touching a couple buttons on your smartphone or connecting a CD player if you still have CDs or whatever, and you just listen to something, and that can all of a sudden start you on a trajectory of getting out of that funk. So I think that's a great number 5.
So the sixth and final is really about incorporating a lot of what we've talked about already into a daily and morning ritual. A morning ritual is very important. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed when I'm discouraged is I just don't want to get up in the morning. Like, I just want to stay in bed. I just want to sleep. I want the world to forget that I exist. I don't want any pressures. I don't want anything to indicate that I have any sort of responsibility. Like, how can I be as responsibility-less as possible? And so a morning ritual is really great because it gets you excited about getting up for the day. Or at least it will create, even if you're not excited, it will create muscle memory for what, like, you don't have to think about it.
It
like,
primes the pump.
That's right. You just get up and you just do your morning ritual, and it will get you going and into motion, as opposed to just laying there and thinking about, how awful your life is, right? And so some of the things that we do for our morning ritual is, Joel mentioned that he drinks water first thing in the morning. That's something that I need to be incorporating. I'm tagging that. I know that he has a jug of water on his side of the bed. I need to get a jug of water on my side of the bed.
You can borrow mine if you want.
I know, but it just seems like so much work to go, can you pour me a glass of water? And then I have to rely on you. What if you're fickle that morning? What if you're like, no, you get no water?
Which sounds like me.
Okay, you would never do that. But that said, then it's my habit, right? Now, then I'm not relying on anybody else. So I need to get my own jug of water. So wake up first thing in the morning, drink a jug of water. Or not a jug, but a glass of water from a jug that you have by your bed. The other thing that we do in the morning every morning is we do our morning smoothie. And we're going to post underneath this podcast on our website, we're going to post our recipe for our morning smoothie because we think it's a really high quality one and we love it. We definitely stand by it. But we'll post,
and where to get the ingredients,
to get the ingredients, etc. So a morning smoothie is a big thing. Then we, as our morning ritual, we generally get a cup of coffee together and we talk. We have conversation with each other, and it's very pleasant. So these things, well, actually, the first thing we do is, before any of that, is we spend some time cuddling in bed. That's part of our morning ritual, is that when we first wake up, our alarm, which is a 2.5-year-old called Piper, who wakes us up every morning, crawls into bed with us. We do a little bit of a cuddle puddle for about 10 or 15 minutes before we all get up.
Yeah.
And then begins the water, and then begins the morning smoothie and the coffee and the talking. And then, because we work together in our own home business, we sit down and we frame out our day. We talk about what we're going to accomplish that day, and we get some ideas going, and we talk about some of the cool stuff that's, gone on in our lives or what we've been learning, and then we get our day going. And it's all very pleasant. Like, everything we do in our morning ritual is extremely pleasurable. So it makes it so that getting up in the morning is not like a drudgery. I believe that creating a pleasurable morning ritual is one of the greatest ways to keep yourself from being in a funk, to keep yourself from being discouraged. And if you enter a time period of discouragement, it's a great way to have muscle memory around just doing, like sometimes you just got to get up and do stuff, right? Just to kind of keep yourself going. Even if it doesn't feel very good in the moment, you just kind of have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and do it. If your morning ritual is already filled with pleasure, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be something that you are dreading, having to get up and do. So I recommend, regardless of what context you're in, whether you're married, single, whether you're in a relationship, you've got roommates, whatever it is, right? Make sure your morning ritual is something that you already, when you're not discouraged, look forward to. Make sure that you've got components in it that are highly pleasurable to you. And that makes it so that when you're discouraged, it's not going to be a big deal when you get up and do your morning ritual. It's not going to be like, oh gosh, I have to go, do 2 hours of Pilates. Like, it's going to be something that you enjoy doing, and you're going to want to get up and do it.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about morning ritual all we want, and making it happen is a totally different ball of wax. So some ideas on making this happen is we perform how we practice. One idea is to literally spend an afternoon, a couple hours in an afternoon, practicing the motions of your morning ritual to build it into your muscle memory. So literally get into your pajamas. You take some time on a Saturday afternoon to practice this, or Sunday afternoon before you got to get up Monday morning. So you have all the elements of your morning ritual you want to do, and it's maybe hard to remember those when you first wake up. You're foggy-headed, so you want to build this in your muscle memory. So strip down, get into your pajamas or whatever you wear to bed, whether naked, clothed, whatever. Get in your bed. Set your alarm for 3 minutes from then. Have the alarm go off, and then literally go through the motions. You don't have to drink the full glass of water, but go through the motion of drinking the glass of water. Go through the motion of maybe journaling in the morning, or go through the motion of brushing your teeth, making your smoothie. Like, go through the steps, and then repeat that over and over again, maybe 3 to 6 times in an afternoon. Then get back in bed after you're done, set the alarm, do that again. And now you're practicing what you're going to be doing on a Monday morning. So when a Monday morning hits, You're not like, okay, what's my ritual that I'm trying to build again? And you're like having to think about it. You've already practiced the motions, the steps, and you're going to get better at thinking about how do I want my day to start out? Because why not make it pleasurable starting? Why not make it a pleasurable experience? And so you can kind of see what it feels like to go through the motions as practicing getting up. That's kind of a counterintuitive idea to practice getting up in the morning. But think about how we practice everything else we build skill with. Why not practice getting up and setting our day and intentions correctly? So this is an idea for you to really have a practical application of what we're talking about, to get that ritual built and to start your day off on the right foot, to help yourself stay out of those funks.
Yeah. So all 6 of these things, none of them are earth-shatteringly surprising. I mean, I've heard all 6 of these things so many times in, dealing with discouragement. But I think the position we're coming from is not to just do the list of things that you're supposed to do. I think we wanted to add a little context, but also reinforce this idea that it can be good. Like all of these things that we're told to do over and over, we can either look at them from the frame of, okay, well, now here's my list of the stuff that I have to do in order to not feel bad. Or we can look at them like, this is going to lead to some serious pleasure. This is going to lead to something that feels really good. My body's going to feel so good when I drink that smoothie. Or my body's going to feel so good when I treat it to some water. Like in the water thing, I didn't mention this, but my favorite water is fizzy water like Perrier or Pellegrino. If you're having trouble training yourself to drink water and that water is good, go get that, right? Like if you like Pellegrino or Perrier, go spend the money to drink a Pellegrino and Perrier all day long, right? Like do that if you need to do that. Whatever it is that is the most pleasurable for you, go do the thing that is the highest pleasure that will get you in the habit that you want to maintain. Or like make sure that when you drink water, it's always ice water with a little bit of lemon or lime in it. Or if you hate ice and water, which I know a lot of people do, make sure that it's like a really crisp glass of water, not from the tap, but maybe that you've purchased like really nice high quality water. Like whatever it is that you need to do in order to make it as pleasurable an experience as possible, go do that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about when we're in a funk, the goal is to get out of a funk, quote unquote. And ultimately that's our starting point. And then it's to take that energy of movement and turn that into, okay, I'm no longer focused on getting out of a funk. Now I'm focused on optimizing my life and increasing my happiness every single day. And changing the focus from getting out of a funk into increasing happiness and pleasure, I think is a great frame to come from. And oftentimes we're just in that funk and we need to just get out and start with baby steps, but working toward that positive frame every day. And the goal is to never be in a funk in the first place. If we're looking toward trying to create pleasurable things, trying to create positive things in our lives, trying to create movement forward, that if you're focused on the positive, it's going to be really hard to get caught up in the negative. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes we're stuck there, and it's that first initial getting out of it and then moving proactively positive forward into the future. Now, we want to hear from you. You have other ideas that we didn't come up with that we'd love to hear and possibly incorporate into our lives. You have some thoughts about things that have worked for you. You might have a complaint like, yeah, I've tried that, guys, and you're full of crap. That doesn't work at all. We want to hear from you, whether it's positive, negative, whatever. We want to hear your feedback. One of the best places to do that is over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/personalityhacker. You can also hit us up on twitter.com/personalityhack. And of course, our website is a vault of awesome, we believe, awesome articles, information, conversation, resources. There's a free test to test your personality there. And we are Personality Hacker. We love personality typology. So come over to personalityhacker.com and just engage with the content there. Engage with us. We're present on the site. We're present on the social media channels. We want to know who you are. We want to connect with you. So come over, make yourself known, and connect with us. And you want to say another thing?
I was just going to say, if you love our podcast, please feel free to rate us at iTunes. Go over to iTunes and give us a review and a rating and let us know how we're doing.
And while you're at iTunes, make sure you subscribe so we can join you each week on your life's journey and your life of growth and personal development. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk to you on the next episode of Personality Hacker.